broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast.
Okay. Now the fun part. Okay. I think we're back up and running. So, external information. As I was saying, your external information is your common information. When you close a form in TraCS 10 and you reopen it, your external information will be available for you to use on a new form, but it will no longer be linked to the first form. Okay, so if you change it on the second form, it will not change the original form, just something to keep in mind when you start working with that. But external information, it can be copied and replicated, it can be edited, and it's found on the navigational panel for the external information tab. Okay, your forms manager replaces the contact manager, and the users will when you launch TraCS, you are automatically logged into the forms manager. The forms grid will be blank, so you need to perform a search when you first open TraCS in order to pull up your forms. If you're in a vehicle, any forms that you create during the time you're working, they will automatically be in the forms manager, so you won't have to search for those. And this is a graphic of the forms manager. Notice there's a lot of stuff on it. You have your ribbon groups and your quick access toolbars and your different ribbons. You have different button groups. You have your forms grid, your search panel, there's status bar, and then the navigation panel. I'm going to get into all of this in a lot more detail in just a minute. All right, so the overview of the forms manager. You have what we call a quick access toolbar. This is located all the way at the very top of the screen, and it's a little tiny toolbar. This toolbar is customizable by the user. Any changes you make to that toolbar, as long as you do your start shifts and your end shifts, will move with you to each of the computers that you work on. So if you want to add a button to it because you use it all the time, you have a problem remembering where it is on the different ribbons, you can add it to this toolbar. It'll always be there for you as long as you're doing your start and end shifts. You also have what we call ribbon groups. A ribbon group is a grouping of buttons within a ribbon page. The ribbon pages are things like your home page, your view page, your action pages. All right, those are your ribbon pages. And within those you have groupings of buttons. The one shown up here is the file group on the home page. And all of these buttons perform similar actions. And then of course you have your ribbon buttons, which is a button that performs an action within those ribbon groups. And it looks like somebody moved my button. We also have what we call sub-menu buttons. There are three different types of buttons. You have a standard button, you click on it, it performs an action. You have sub-menu buttons, which when you click on them, you're going to get a drop-down list of other options. You also have what we call a combo button. A combo button, when you click on it, you're going to get a drop-down list, which will have additional items in a fly-out menu, and sometimes multiple fly-out menus. So there are a couple of different types of buttons you'll be seeing. You also have your navigation panel. By default, the navigation panel is on the left-hand side of the screen. It pretty much runs from the top to the bottom. And I say by default because it can be moved. It also can be turned off. But by default, it'll always appear on the left-hand side unless you change that. From there, you can add forms very quickly. You can preview forms if you're in the forms viewer. You can view external information, open contact information. So it's a useful bar, and depending on your preferences, you may or may not want it turned on. The forms grid, like I said, when you first open the forms manager, it's going to be empty. All right? You can view forms by doing a search. You can also hit the refresh button after you do a start shift, and that'll pull up any forms that you started out with. If you're on your station PC and you hit the refresh button, you're going to get everything under the sun. So you need to be a little aware of the refresh button on the station PC. May bring back more than you need. It is limited to how many forms you can bring back. It's still a 1,000 limit, but because they're not preloaded, you don't have to wait for the Forms Manager to pop up. The search panel you're going to be using a lot is located at the bottoms of the Forms Manager, and it has 4 tabs that allow the users to search in a lot of different ways. I'm basically going to cover the General tab today, which allows you to search by the user ID, location, form type, status, form number, form description, and date ranges. You can also save any search that you run to your Favorites tab. So if you are always running a certain search, you can save it off to your favorites, and then you just go to your Favorites tab and you can click that search and it'll run. If the search panel is not visible, all right, you're going to go to View on the Ribbons tab pages and do Show Search. We've also added that button to the Quick Access toolbar, so hopefully it'll stay there, and that'll be available to you from that as well, and I'll show you that in a second. I thought I fixed this. All right. The search panel, the general search, search results, like I said, are limited to 1,000 records. The user ID button, it has a box next to it. You actually can't type in that white box. You actually have to click on the button and select the user IDs. When you're selecting the user IDs, this is set up by your administrator. You will only be able to see those user IDs that you have permission to see. So you may just have your own. You may have, if you're supervising a bunch of people, you may have a list. Your station may allow you to see everybody. It just depends on how it's set up by your administrator. Same thing with location. It's set up by the administrator. When you click on the location button, you're going to get a list of different locations. More than likely, you're probably not going to be using this too much unless you have multiple locations in your jurisdiction. And the forms allows you to pick which forms you want to search on within the search results. The status, again, you click on the status button, you're going to get a list of different statuses that you can select from. So if you want to see all your validated forms or all your submitted forms, you can go ahead and click on that. Your form numbers, this is where you actually enter in the form number for the report. Yep.
I'm sorry, by the location, do you mean, like your county agency being able to see the cities and villages, their stuff, or what did you mean by that?
Well, for state police, we have all the different state police agencies listed in there, so I can go in and I can search, division headquarters. I can search, Gilder, different troops, and I can search that way. So if you're, if you've got a large enough department, you may be divided east, west, north, south, so you may have those as options. It just depends. I think most of the smaller agencies probably won't be using it too much.
That's actually a new feature that we're going to cover tomorrow. It's associated with the users, where now you'll have the ability to break up into zones or shifts. So we'll talk about how to set that up. But if that's the case, then your location could either be a physical location or potentially a shift. So, if you're a county sheriff's department, you have north, south, east, and west, you can split that or districts. So that will actually be applicable. Just need to talk about how that's going to work for each agency.
Form description, that's actually a free text field that you can type in. So if you're looking for Joe Smith, you can type Joe Smith in there as part of the description, and it'll pop up all the Joe Smiths that you've written for. All right. The next area you can search on the General tab is the data source. You have options of current, archive, or all. All right. Archiving, which I will show you a little bit later, is much easier, yes, than it used to be, and hopefully a lot more reliable than it used to be. But you can have a choice of what you search on, and I'll show you how that works. Your form date, or select your date ranges again. If you click on the drop-down arrow, it gives you a calendar. You can pick from the calendar your date ranges. And your favorites button obviously allows you to save to your favorites. And then you lastly have the clear and the search button. The clear button will clear any existing criteria within the search panel, and the search will execute the search. Okay. All right, so let's now go ahead and, whoops, that's not what I want. Take a look at TraCS. All right, so I already logged into TraCS, entered the user ID and password, and now I am in the Forms Manager. The Forms grid, which is this section here, is empty. This is your, yeah, that's good. Sorry. Your quick access toolbar is this little toolbar up here. And like I had mentioned before, we stuck the show search on it. If I were to click on this, your search panel goes away. If I click on it again, it brings it right back. It's also on your view, show search, nice big button. Okay. Each one of the tabs is a ribbons page. And depending on which ribbons page you're on will depend on if things are active or inactive. Down the left-hand side, you have your navigational panel. You have your quick add, which allows you to add forms. It's a forms preview. I don't have any selected, so there's not going to be anything there. You have your open contacts and your external information. And as I pointed out to you before, with external information, you have different options: individual, vehicle, carrier, offense, and location. In the bottom portion, your search panel. If I go ahead and I click on user ID, you can see we have quite a list of user IDs here that I can choose from. And you can just select which user ID you want, and then it'll pre-populate. So if I was going to look up, let's see here. Oops, there it goes. Let's do J Daly, and I'll also do our system admin. And click OK. Now those items end up in that bar. I'm hitting backspace on the computer. I can highlight it, but I can't delete it. I would have to actually clear the search by clicking on user ID, and then I can select all and clear all, or I can uncheck the ones I don't need. Your location, like I said before, Jim apparently only has access to CSP headquarters, but we have a full list of every station, and I could pick and choose which stations I would want to see. Your forms allow you to pick which forms do I want to search on. So if I'm only looking for my crash reports, or my crash forms, I can go ahead and click on that. If I'm just looking for my traffic tickets, I can scroll down and find those, and then you just check which ones you want. I'm going to leave it for all right now. We also have status. All right, this is all your different statuses. You may see some things that you haven't seen in here before, such as rejected and sealed. We'll be getting into some of those in a bit. Form number, I can go ahead and type the form number in. I can type a form description. I'm just going to search on what I have right now. So before I do that, I'm going to save this search. So if I save this to my favorites, as soon as I click save, it moves me to my favorites tab. Now it's asking me for a name for this, and I'm just going to say general search. And now at any point, I can come over here and go to Run Selected Search, and I just select it by clicking in front of it, making sure it's highlighted. So then I can go ahead and run that at any point, and it's going to run, and now I have my forms grid is populated. In the forms grid, you have your form name, your form number, status, if it's locked, form date, time, user ID. So here the form description. In this case, document is the person's last name. You have your contact name, which is much longer. It's your form number, date, time, contact description. You have substatus, your CTVs, your TCSs, and your court code is now available. So if you need to sort by court code, you can come over here and click on court code, and it would sort it ascending or descending. And that's basically a basic search. Any questions on a basic search? Yes?
I had a question about the quick access.
Yep.
Customization. Is that specific to a user?
Yes. No, it's specific to a user. You can set up station-wide quick access buttons that you want on there. It needs to be done, I believe, before the profiles are created. So you wouldn't have to make a universal decision that you wanted everybody to have certain buttons on it. I have that a little bit later in my slide presentation to show you how to customize that toolbar. Yes. Yeah. You want to take a break?
Yeah, we've got coffee and stuff set up outside or whatever they put for refreshments. So why don't we take what do we have on the agenda?
15.
Uh,
15?
a 10-minute break, and we'll be right back.
Want me to pause this? Or you want me to just leave it on?
Just leave that up.
right, for the agencies that do start shift and end shift procedures, I know some of you don't. There's now two types of start shifts, right? And as we always tell you, users should perform a start shift and end shift each time to ensure that their settings are all available. For the start shift user file, it's probably going to be your most commonly used start shift in TraCS 10. It includes your user settings and your hot files, okay, whereas the start shift includes the user settings and hot files, but it also includes any forms that you might want to take back out to the car to work on. All right, so it actually is not, the button is not even available to you until you select a form from your forms grid. Then those forms will get start shifted back out to your car so that you can work on them in the car. If you're not taking any forms out, you're just going to use the start shift user file. All right, let's talk about creating a new contact and opening a new form. There are three ways in the Forms Manager to start a new contact. You can start one from the navigation bar, from the new contact button, and from the add form button. From the navigational panel, you're going to want to make sure you're on the quick add tab or button. Okay, and it's going to give you a list of all the TraCS forms that are available. There are up arrows and down arrows so that you can move up and down the list. In the car, the navigational panel is probably going to be a little more difficult to use, especially if you're using a trackpad. So you may not decide to use this option when you're in the car. You also have available to you the new contact button. When you click on the new contact button, you're going to get another window that's going to open up, and this one gives you a list of forms that you can pick from. You go ahead and click on one of the forms, and we'll go ahead and open that in the Forms Manager or in the Forms Viewer. You also have the Add Form button. The Add Form button is a drop-down. Right, so you get to click on the Add Form button, and from the drop-down list you can pick which form you want to start in the car. The Add Form button can also be used when you have an open contact to add more forms to it. So the Forms Viewer is where we're going to do all of our work on our different forms. You're going to do all your data entry. It opens as a new window. All right. You'll have one contact. You can have as many forms as you need within that contact, but the important thing to remember is that everything in that contact should be related to each other. So if you go to an accident, you do the accident form, or the crash form. You can write multiple tickets, maybe you do DWI. All of that is around one contact. You shouldn't be going out on the road doing traffic stop after traffic stop after traffic stop for different people and using all the same contact, because all those forms are then related. All right, so if you need to search it later, you may end up getting all those forms back. So you want to make sure that your new contact for each contact that you have. All right, the Forms Viewer looks similar to the Forms Manager. Has the same ribbon buttons and ribbon pages and ribbon controls. It has the navigation panel and the forms window that you can work with. Apparently my slide's been cut off. It has your data bar, which is used to enter your information. Each field has its own data bar, whether it's a text data bar, date data bar, time, drop downs. Okay. If it's not visible, it means you are not in an edit mode. You are in a read-only mode, and I'll show you in a minute how to turn on and off the edit mode and show you the difference in that. And then the form window is where all of the form data is displayed, and multiple forms will show up as multiple tabs across the top of the data bar. All right. And again, you can see here, this one, this slide shows that there is no data bar at the top of the form. It also shows that the Edit Form button is not selected. There are two types of data bars available to you. The default data bar is what we call the Advanced Data Bar. It'll appear at the top of the form when in edit mode, and includes the full help text, your field data entry help text, which may be a shorter version of the full help text, your data entry, and your navigation buttons. The basic data bar is a smaller version of the advanced data bar. It takes up less screen space, so in the car it might be a good option to switch to this as a data bar. The field help is hidden In order to activate it, you would need to click on the question mark, and then it'll open it as a separate window, the full help text. You still have your short field action help text. You still have your data entry, and then your navigation buttons are now just icons, so you're going to lose all the words for the icons. To switch between the two data bars, when you have the data bar open, if you right-click on it, you can choose whether you want basic or advanced. Whichever is checked is your option that you will see. And we recommend that you keep the field help on. You turn that off and it's not going to be available to you. All right. So let's go back to TraCS here.
Just for reference, the advanced and basic data bar is similar to expert mode and not expert mode. However, it seems to be labeled logically the opposite. These refers to the data bar itself, not the user mode.
All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start an accident form or crash form. You can, like I said, you can start it from the quick add toolbar on the left. You can use the new contact button or the add form button. They all perform basically the same action. I'm going to start it from the new contact. You're going to get this create contact. This will probably not show up. I think we're coding this so you're not going to see this, but for right now, just in case you do see this, all it is saying I'm creating this contact, and it's the name, the form number basically. So you're going to click create, and now I'm going to select my form. And this will open us up into the forms viewer. Okay. And as you can see, I don't know if you noticed, but across the bottom we've got folder JDaily, and we've got the forms manager. So it's actually two different windows. All right. Now, if you opened a form and edit mode was not on, all right, so it's, notice the top, you've lost your data bar. All right, so if I choose edit form, I now have the data bar available. I can go ahead and switch it, and I can go to basic. All right, so I get the smaller version. You get to see more of the form. Or you can switch it back. Advanced. You get the larger data bar. It takes up more screen space. You also have the option to choose to dock at bottom or dock at top. Bottom or top. All right, whichever way you prefer. Again, these are personal preferences that will go with your user settings. So as long as you're doing your start and your end shifts, these settings will move with you. Personally, I like it back at the top, so I'm going to put it back up there. All right. Let's see here. So again, you have your quick access toolbar, which is up here. Right now, there's nothing on it. You have your ribbon groups, your ribbon buttons. You have your navigation panel. From the navigation panel, you have your forms, which allows you to actually navigate through the form rather quickly. You have your forms in contact. When you have multiple forms within a contact, all the forms that you have available will be listed here. You can even close a form in a contact. It'll still be listed here. If you reopen a form, if I have this and 2 tickets with it and I close it and I open it up later, if I go to forms in contact, if I just open the crash form, the tickets will be listed here. So I can double click on them from here and open them up, which is why you want to make sure everything related is just this accident or this crash. You have a quick add, which allows you to add other forms. And then you have your external information, which apparently we have something in here right now. Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about external information, how to replicate it and edit that information. When you scan a driver's license or a registration, all of that goes into the external information. Once it's in the external information, you can go to that panel and right-click on a contact, and you can choose to copy it or replicate it, and then you can change that for different information. So in this instance, we're talking about replicating. So I would select the contact and the individual on the navigation panel, right-click on it, and choose replicate. The new contact will now be listed. As you can see here, there are 2 Joe documents. All right. When you want to edit this information, you're going to right-click on one of the two contacts and you're going to change that information. It now saves that. That's now a new contact or new external information that you can use within the application. All right, you can change any fields within it. Now, when I say that, you can change any fields within it. Some of the fields right now, and we're hoping that this is kind of a little thing we're working out right now, for drop-down lists, like junior, senior, things like that, in the external information, I'll show you this in a second, you can't change it there. You have to change it on the form once you use it. It'll update it in the external information, but right now it's just a problem with the drop-downs being able to switch things from there. So that should be worked out in the next release. Well, I'm going to show you right now. Okay. Oops, wrong screen again. All right. So I grabbed two licenses. So we're going to do, basically, I'm going to do, the scenario here is going to be a two vehicle collision, all right, with a child in one of the vehicles, all right, so a passenger. So I'm going to start off by going ahead and hopefully scanning two different licenses. All right, so we have document sample, and hopefully it won't be document sample again. Sample license, okay, good. Okay, so if I now go to the external information tab, I don't know why there are three here, so I'm going to get rid of one of these. Yes, I want to delete that one. Okay, so I have document sample and I have sample license. Let's say that sample document has a child in the vehicle. Right? I can right-click on this and choose to replicate it. Now, yep.
Does TraCS 10 allow for 2-digit COM port for your scanner? Whereas 7 was fuzzy?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think the question is regards to the scanner and ports above COM12, where we had issues with the scanner working. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I didn't know if the number was actually 12.
It used to be anything 12 and above, the scanner wouldn't work correctly. I don't know where that is. We haven't actually done that. But that's a good test we can put out there. We'll look at it.
All right. So now I'm going to select one of the items that I just replicated. If I right-click on it and I choose Edit External Information, this is going to open a new window. I can now click on the plus side in front of one of these and go ahead and change the name. So let's call her Sarah. All right. Middle name. Now, this is where I was talking about with the drop-down. We're having a little problem right now. If I click on the drop-down, it doesn't do anything. Okay, I can't change what's in the drop-down list. That is being fixed, so you shouldn't have an issue with that. But it can be changed on the form, and it will update here. Okay. So when I'm all done changing whatever I need to change in here, I'm going to go ahead and click Close. Notice it changed in the external information. From here, I can now, let's go back to my form. All right, let's see here. You have to bear with me. Let's see, 2 units. We'll say the first driver was sample document. Okay, that all gets filled in. We can go down to total occupants 2. I'm not going to fill this whole thing in because I want it to go much quicker. All right, my second driver is going to be sample license. All right, and then my passenger is going to be Sarah. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back up to the top, or to the first driver. And let's say I need to add now a ticket for the first driver. All right. In this instance, I'm going to do an add form. Thank you. All right. And I'm going to go to last name, and I'm going to go ahead and pick my sample document. Now, thank you, the license is expired. Now, this data is still linked to the first form, and it will remain linked to the first form throughout the time we're working with it. I'll show you an unlinked one later, but this right now is linked. So if I go in here and I were to change the suffix on this, just take it out, that will now change the first one. See? The first one. driver 1. All right, it's no longer there. And if you go to the external information and you were to look at this external information, it's been changed here. So that's the workaround for the drop-downs right now. You have to change it on the form, and then it will update all the common information. Mike?
When you're in the form, I'm not sure it used to be add new or whatever, but now you're going to have to go to kind of like TraCS is now on driver 1 and add person instead of just hitting the edit button and selecting above. So where you know where you're highlighting the document sample, you would actually select above that person, edit new, then you could actually start typing in information.
You can, if you're in.
So you bring it from the navigation pane now.
So you're saying from here, you mean from, I can add new, and I could enter somebody completely manually if I wanted to.
But in the old tracks or the current tracks, you can select above in that white space above their name.
You can still do that. Oh, I see what you're saying. Click here and then hit edit.
Yeah, and then create a new person.
And you can create a new person there, same as you can now. This is just some added functionality and some better ways to make sure you don't end up with things like, the tow truck driver and the passenger and, that kind of stuff. So this allows you to create people very quickly. And you can do it, if you're on a field, you can do it from the blank and edit, or you can go over at any point, right-click on external information and choose Add New. All right, and then you can go ahead and, this isn't wide enough right now, but if I make this wider, all right, oops, that's good. I could add myself right in here. All right, so, and I can even choose to apply it. Or I can just go back to the individuals. I think I have to save it, though. Yeah, so they're all here. So at any point, you can go ahead and add a new person. You don't have to be on a field anymore. May save you some time. Any other questions right now about external information? We're going to be doing some more with it. But.
And you put in there also automatically incorporated with the hot list.
I don't think so. The question was, when you put the name in, does it associate or check the hot list if you're downloading the LPR? My understanding is that the only time that happens is when you actually scan the document and it hits that at the time. What time are you in? Or honestly.
Huh?
In track 7 it doesn't, so check that.
Well,
We'll have to check that and clarify, so that's an unknown.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about auto-populating. In track 7, when you auto-populated a form, you'd open the new form, and then you would pull the information into it. In tracks 10, you're actually going to push everything from an existing form to a new form. So if I'm going to auto-populate from one form to another, I'm going to first fill out the first form, then I'm going to hit the auto-populate button. When I hit the auto-populate button, it's going to give me a list of options of what I can auto-populate to. I'm going to select the form. It's going to open the form, assign it a number, and put all the data in it. The only time it won't put data in it is if you're going to a form that has multiple people in it, and it may not know where to put it. But otherwise, everything will auto-populate over. So it's from the new form, from the existing form to the new form instead of opening a new form and pulling the data. There are some exceptions to that, which I will get to in a second because I'm on the wrong slide. And I'll show you. This is what the dialog box looks like. So if you were doing a UTT, these would be your options. And you would go ahead and select your option, click OK. It's going to open the new form and populate it. All right. And your new form will have, yes?
I'm getting emails.
Oh,
Something's not working.
something's not working again.
I don't know if we're sharing the screen.
It's on. Let's see your screen. right, so sorry about that, guys. So the auto-populate, once the second form is created, you're going to see multiple tabs across the top of your screen. Whichever tab is lighter in color is your active tab. All right, the exceptions to the auto-populate are the UTT ACC merge tickets. All right. This is the one time it is actually going to be a pull from the other forms instead of pushing to a new form. When you have tickets for an accident or a crash, when you go back to the crash form, you're going to do an auto-populate and choose merge tickets. This is then going to pull all the data from the tickets onto your accident. And then it's the same thing with the incident and the UTT. All right. When you're on the incident form, you can pull the information in from the UTT. All right.
You do the UTT first?
You don't. There's no specific order if you're going to do the accident or the ticket. All right. If you're doing usually you probably start the accident, but you're going to do the tickets so that you can let people go, right? So you're going to want them open, but you may not have the accident finished. You're going to finish out the tickets, print those out, give them out. But at that point, at any point, you can pull the ticket numbers and anything you wrote them for onto the accident. You don't actually have to have the accident started, but you can have it open. All right. So what I was actually going to do here, let's talk. First thing I wanted to show, we've already started an accident. I already have one ticket. All right. Now, one thing I didn't talk about yet was actually replicating. All right. So I started this UTT. I'm going to go ahead and replicate it. That's pretty much the same that it always was. All right. And it's going to fill out the ticket for the next one. So now I have two. With accidents and tickets, all right, if I want to now create a ticket for the other driver, you are going to add form. This is the one time you're going to use an add form. And you're going to click OK. All right, so now I have this other person. And where is... Oh, I did. Sorry. I don't want that. Hold on. Oh, this is in my way. Sorry. Thank you. I'm looking at it going, that doesn't look right. All right. Sorry. So I'm going to add form. Here we go. I was going to say it didn't look quite right. There we go. All right. So this time I'm going to put it for the other person. All right. So now, although I haven't filled out the actual violations on the tickets, all right, I'm going to go to the accident, and I'm actually going to do an auto-populate, bring the data back in. Yeah. I don't have to. All right, so I go to my actions ribbon, and I'm going to now make sure, one, that I'm on the accident. And I can tell that because it's the lighter of the colored tabs. You can see all the different tabs across the top. And I'm going to go ahead and I've written 2 to the first person and 1 to the second person, even though I haven't filled in the information yet. And I'm going to choose auto-populate. Then I'm going to select what I want to do is merge tickets. And I'm going to go ahead at this point and click OK. It's going to now give me a list of the tickets. All I have to do is make sure one of them is selected. And then I'm going to choose Select Form. My screen's going to blink at me. Now, if I go down to the vehicle, this little thing is really a pain. Jeez. All right, and if I go down here, it didn't bring it in. It is. The persons are on there. The people are on there. Yeah, I did. I don't have to. It's supposed to automatically do it as soon as you do it. It was doing it that way when I tested it. I'll populate. Let's just see. Merge tickets. Yes, here it is. Okay, so Unit 2, yes. There's their ticket. And if I go up,
Will the violation section be auto-populated?
it will. Yeah, it will. I just didn't fill them in. just because I was going for speed. But yeah, if you go to each one, it'll bring it in and it'll match to that person. I don't know why this one's not pulling in. Probably because I probably picked the wrong person. It's supposed to bring it in regardless because it matches on the person's name and on the common information. More than likely, it's probably something when we were going back and forth. But yes.
Do you only get the tree on the left side if you're in the primary form? When you were under the UTTs, that was on individuals and stuff.
Well, it depends which tab you're on. So if I change, I'm on the individual tab, but I can go back to the forms tab and I can use the forms tab to navigate through. All right, so you can see all of them here. You can navigate quickly. Oh, this is why, because my person's not in here. That's why it didn't bring it in. The nice thing, though, is you can auto-populate this as many times as you need to. Okay, now they should be here. There they are. So now, because I actually didn't have the person filled in for the first one, that's why they weren't bringing in the tickets. But the tickets are now listed there. If I had bothered to fill out the actual violation, that would have been brought in as well. And so if I wrote another one after I do this, I can still do this merge ticket again. Other things you can do, another example of the auto-populate where you're not pulling the information like I just did from the form. This is a standard auto-populate I'm going to do from the UTT. I would choose auto-populate. I would select what form I'm auto-populating to. I'm going to do it to send it to a DWI. And then I would click OK. This is now going to open the DWI form and auto-populate the information directly into it. No, you do not have to open the form first anymore. You use the auto-populate from the form you're on to the new form. So you're pushing the data. Exception being like the merge tickets. So that automatically sends it over. Yes?
Is it pushing more than just the driver name? Is it pushing code numbers, CR numbers, time, date?
Whatever it
should be pushing the person, all the vehicle information.
Yeah.
The ticket related to is a separate ticket merge, similar to the crash.
Right. It doesn't fill in like data stop, time to stop, that kind of stuff. You mean?
It's customizable, so if there's something that we missed on the populate rule, we'll identify that through the pilot and fix it.
Okay. Well, because one of the things on the current auto-populate I found is that it's not pushing fields that are the useful fields, because the driver and vehicle information fields, those are easy. Those are in the common information. I don't really care if those are auto-populated as much as things that are carried from form to form, like local code numbers, date, location, that information. Something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Okay. That's a good question for Matt. Anybody have any questions on how the auto-populate is working? I think that's probably the biggest change that you're going to see is this auto-populate. So, and you know what, if you added a form, this doesn't mean that you're going to have the stuff to pull over. You can still go to the common information, get the person and everything else. It's just not going to auto-populate any extra fields for you. Yep.
Officers' information. Have you added any under the ranks, any of the other than state police type ranks in the new system?
Did we?
No.
We can add. We can add.
Yeah, we can add whatever you want.
Was the seven never had deputy, police officer, patrolman, anything like that?
Yeah, we can add. We can add.
There you go. Yeah.
When's it putting the signature? What was it?
It depends on the form, on when the signature goes in. Because some of them require that you hit a button, sign, and then it'll insert the signature. Some of them, if it's not something that you have to specifically hit the sign button, it'll insert it as soon as you open the form. So in this one, apparently it's inserting it right away. More question? Yeah.
Talking about pushing information, are you able to, through your IT people, are you able to set up so that we can push to, or at least provide us with the codes,
so that we can push to a records management system outside of SJS?
That's not my area.
Are you specifically talking about taking your completed tickets and accident reports and importing them into your
PD manager? Yeah, an RMS system, yeah.
basically that's already, it's something that if you were going to do it, you have to work with your vendor. The way it works for anybody can attest to this who's using Impact, New World, Spillman. Currently, TraCS outputs the final form of the traffic ticket and the crash report in XML format, and then the vendor we give the vendor that format, and they can pull it into the records management system. So those vendors are already doing it. I don't think PD manager. They're not doing that yet. They haven't approached us asking us for the format, but it's not a big lift for them to do it. We can tell you how the other agencies have done that. Okay, offline. But yeah,
so like for the rest, like my biggest thing is your arrest report. I mean, most of the information on OTT for DWI arrests, you're pushing it to the the long form DWI form. Why couldn't you push it to an arrest report? So.
That's not something that we're currently doing right now. It's only the forms that are sent to DMV through TDM. So the accident, the ticket, and if you really wanted incident reports, but those are typically reserved for SJS users anyway.
All right, thank you.
All right.
XML format changing the TraCS 10 or the same?
It's not
Changing? Not changing.
Is it encrypted though? Not encrypted. Yep. So no change.
No change. All right. This slide just kind of gives you an overview of the different auto-populates, what you can go to, where you're pulling, but you can see everything goes from to the new form. All right. Closing a form versus closing a contact. You have two close buttons now in the forms viewer, and if you have multiple forms open, basically you have this little thing is a pain, Jim. Right. There's an X here. This closes any of these forms, and the upper X closes the entire contact. You don't have to close each individual form before you close the contact. But if I were to close one of the forms, right, if I go to the forms in contact, this now gives me a list of all the forms, and anything with a little circle in front of it, see the little circle there? That indicates that the form is closed. Right, I closed that accident earlier. I just closed the DWI. I can double click on it and open it right back up. So you can see all of the forms within the contact. All right, and that doesn't matter if I open a form that was closed and I'm only opening one form. It's still going to list all related forms to that contact. And then I can click on the X up in the corner, and that's going to close me out of the forms manager or the forms viewer, take me back to my forms manager. And now I can go ahead and click to start a new contact and new information. All right.
Is the signing and the signature changing of the yes, I affirm, and then sign in?
Nope. That's all the same. Yeah, most of the forms haven't changed at all.
And my other dumb question is, because I saw it in a form that was open.
The signature was already there?
No.
Oh, okay.
Theoretically, that's a workstation. That's a field that you're playing with right now. That's a workstation. That's why the ceiling is down there.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay. Now, our new statuses. We have two new statuses available to you. The first one is sealed. All right. And the second one is submitted. All right. Sealed status. Supervisors will now have the ability to seal any form at any point in the process. If a form is sealed, users cannot print it, they cannot view it, they cannot open it, there's nothing they can do to it. And they can't be unsealed except by a designated person. So somebody in your agency will be designated the person to unseal records per se. All right, so it's a new status, so if something comes along that's sealed, yep.
If it's sealed though, does it show up in a search?
It will show up in the search, and it'll show up as sealed. Yep, the status will be sealed. So it will show up in your search results, but you will not be able to look at it. Yes? Oh, absolutely. You know, that's agency specific. We're going to be probably having a couple people, but that, you know, not a lot of people will have that option. All right, so that's a new status that you will have available to you. The second status that's going to be new, and this actually is going to affect you, is submitted. All forms will now be put into a submitted status. All right, so what this is intended for is, let's say I'm working on a crash report, all right, and I validate it because I want to make sure I've got everything that I need in it, all right, but then I get called away. It's in a validated status, but I might not be done, all right. Your supervisor is going to go and go, oh, there's a validated crash report, and they're going to go ahead and accept it, but you're not done. So now you got to amend it and everything else. The idea now is everything will go to a submitted status, all right. You can validate it 100 times, but the supervisors will not actually be accepting or rejecting anything until it's in a submitted status. And if it's something that doesn't get accepted or rejected, it will still need to go to a submitted status, at which point the form is locked down. All right, so it's the final status. You are done. This is it. You're finished, okay? So the only form that's not going to use the submitted status is actually the UTT, okay? Supervisors with the UTTs will be going through the same process you always go through, all right? So supervisors will now be reviewing submitted forms. The idea is it's to keep us from having to change things that you weren't quite done with. And once a form is submitted, the only way it goes back to open is if it's been rejected.
Can submitters be selected a field unit? Or do you have to come inside?
No, you can do submitted.
So you can validate it?
And submit it, and then end shift it in?
Yes.
Yes. You don't have to do it in the station, but you can do it there if you want. So here's just two real brief ones. We've got the UTT and the ACC, and you can see they all can go to sealed at any point from anywhere, right? The UTT is exactly the way it is right now. With the ACC, you've got from validated to submitted, accepted, and rejected. Okay. Something new in TraCS 10 is the ability to email. To email a form, it needs to be basically in a printable status. So if you can print it, you can now email it. Right? Now this works with most standard email applications. It does not work with web-based email applications. So if you're using Hotmail or something along that lines, this is not going to work. Okay, but you can use this. What you're going to, huh?
Google Apps.
The Outlook Express. You know, we use GroupWise. Those types will work with this. But there's another workaround if you're using something else, which I'll show you in a second.
You said Outlook and Outlook Express will work.
Yes, it will. Yep, and so would GroupWise. We use GroupWise. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to select your form, and you're going to go to the paw print. The paw print up here in the corner. And you're going to select a form, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to choose to email. You're going to select, you're going to get like a print dialog box that you normally get. Select which reports you want to email. You're going to enter any required settings. Depending on how your email is set up, you may have to enter some email settings when you do this, but it's only the first time. The forms are converted into PDFs attached to the email. Select your recipients and go ahead and click Send. Now, if you're using an online email application that doesn't work with this, you also can do an export of those forms. All right, so you're going to select the forms to be exported. You're going to click on the paw print, click Export, select the forms. This time you get to pick your format. PDF is the format you're probably going to want, but you can choose to do it as a picture file, a GIF or JPEG or whatever. PDF is probably going to make the most sense. And then you're going to click Export. And then you're going to need to browse to the location on your computer where you want that report exported to. So if I were going to take, let's say this UTT, I can go to Export Report. I'm not in a status, sorry. Let's see here. All right, this one will work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and export this. I'm going to select my form. I'm going to select my output type. Notice I have a lot of options. I'm going to stay with PDF. I'm going to choose to export it. I can also preview it if I want, but I'm just going to export this. Click Export. It's going to ask me where I want it. I'm going to put it on the desktop. Okay, and if I go to the desktop, There's my PDF report. So for those people who can't email, you can export the report, save it somewhere, and then go ahead and email it like you would normally do an attachment to an email.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you're in TraCS,
Yep.
the MD104 printing,
We're getting there. Keep jumping ahead of me. The MD104 print is now in TraCS. There's no external application once you go to 10. Yay! All right, so you can print directly from the form. All right, and I'm actually going to show you how to do this in a second. So you're going to select the ACC, you're going to click the print, and it's going to give you the box to choose from. And when you select the MD104, it'll select any other MD104 forms that go along with it. All right, so let's take a look at this. I think I still have one in here. All right, so I do have a validated accident. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go right up to the paw print and choose print. All right, so I now have the MV104A and the A diagram. When I click the 104A, the A diagram is selected. And so you can see what they look like. I'm going to preview this. Please note that the diagram is actually a picture of a license. So. All right, so now on here I have both. This is the diagram, and then I have the MV104. And nice, you can print it from here. You can, from here, if I'm in the print preview, I can also export it and I can email it. That's a good question. It should, yes. Yeah. So no more external application. Yes, you have to, the forms have to be in whatever status they need to be in to be printed regularly. So if validated is the status you require to be printed, some forms have to be invalidated, some have to be in different statuses. You just have to be in that status in order to work with these. Yes?
One of the things we always had a problem with when we first years ago was supervisors wanted to see the report in the MD104 format. So before approving it, they would want the MD104 print, either print the report, or they would look at it on the screen. So now, if the supervisor's reviewing reports, may pull up a report and open it as print preview right from the manager.
As long as it's validated.
As long as it's validated.
Has to be in a validated status to be printed.
Well, from a process perspective, the supervisor would only want to look at submitted reports.
Right.
Correct, right.
So,
for the new process.
but if you were writing it, you could look at it at the point where it's validated.
So we could just pull up all your submitted reports, open it, and then view it in this format right from it.
Correct.
Yes.
so if we mailed or labeled this and created it, it's still going to say draft across unless it's got submitted tagged onto it?
Yes.
That's how it does now.
It's still going to say draft. The draft is different, though. It used to be the draft was on top in big bold letters, and now it's like a watermark diagonally across. So it's a little different, but it still says draft.
Yeah. You don't see it on the screen, though.
Yep. We just put that in on either this is not the right status or it's
on the next version of it.
It's on the next,
It's on the next version of it. Right.
That's in like the next vendor release. We got the ability to put in watermarks. Oh, that's coming.
So it's not on this. It is going to be there.
That's a quick question on that.
Yes.
On MD104, is the security going to apply in such a way that you can restrict users not to use tracks, but only use the MD104 portion?
Yes.
Doesn't view it?
Yes. Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
But it's a good question, is there a way to disable the MD104A print on a field unit?
It will not be available on the field unit. It will not. It'll only be available in station is the way I believe we have it set up now. Okay. All right, so your archive feature. You can now archive forms selectively or in bulk. It archives by year. It is a easy archive and unarchive feature. It's designed for easy search and retrieval. Okay. To archive forms, the buttons for this are located on your data transfer ribbon. and then you're going to select 1, 3, 5, 7, however many forms you would like. So let's take a look here. Oh, great. All right. So I'm going to archive. Let's sort this. Let's say I wanted to archive all the accidents here. All right. If I go ahead, I can, using the control key on your keyboard, you click the forms that you want to archive, and then you just go to the data transfer and click archive. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to say yes. And one by one, they start disappearing. Okay, so now they're gone. If I were to search, they're not going to come back. All right. But if I choose to search and archive, all right, it archives by year, so I also need to select the year. And then I'm going to go ahead and click search. Those are now the accidents that I archived, or crashes I archived. I can now choose all of these, and I can go up to unarchive. Yes, I want to unarchive these. If I clear my search and then hit search again, now they're all back on my regular one. Very simple, hopefully a lot simpler than anything else that we've been working with. Huh?
Is any user can do this or just
Supervisors, I think, is it? I believe supervisors are the ones that have the access to do that, but don't quote me on that. I don't think we've checked it, because Jim's not a Jim. Are you on a supervisor? Isn't on this? Okay.
Is there an automated or batch way to do this, or is this it? This is you bring it up all, you bring them up to 1,000 in there and just do it one screen at a time?
Yeah, it's pretty much that.
Well, you can just do a select, hit your search criteria, and then select all.
Yeah. Control A.
Up to 1,000.
Yeah, up to 1,000.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're doing it on a regular basis, hopefully you won't have a huge amount to do. Okay. All right, so that's archiving. All right, I told you guys earlier about the Quick Access Toolbar. I'm going to show you basically how to add items and remove items to your Quick Access Toolbar, because this is one of those customizable things that you might want to actually look at using. Any button can be added to the Quick Access Toolbar. It does not remove it from its regular toolbar or regular ribbon. All right. If, let's say, what's good? All right, let's say nighttime mode. I want to put my nighttime mode on my Quick Access Toolbar because I can never find the stupid button. Okay? You're going to find the button, put your mouse cursor over it, right-click, and choose Add to Quick Access Toolbar. It now shows up only as an icon on that toolbar, but when you hover over it, it will tell you what it is. And then I can go ahead and click on it, and anytime I need it, it's right there for me. As long as I make sure I start shift, this will go out to the car with me. If I change it out in the car, you want to make sure you bring it back in with you. All right? You can put any button on there that you want. All right, let's say I want to add the print button. You can add that to the Quick Access Toolbar. All right. If you want to remove something that you added to the Quick Access Toolbar, you point to the button on the Quick Access Toolbar, right-click, and remove. Okay. It doesn't change any functionality to any of the buttons on the ribbons, but allows you to quickly add and remove buttons to your toolbar that you might use often, that you don't want to have to go to a different tab. You might want to put your start shift up there, your validate buttons. Yes?
Is there a limit to how many buttons you have?
25. 25 buttons. That's quite a few. So you get, yeah, max is 25. Okay? Huh? Locking and unlocking? Yeah. You right-click. You can lock, unlock. If you take a form out to the car, it's automatically locked and should automatically unlock when you bring it back in, if you do that. Another thing that you're going to want to do or may need to do is edit your signature. I'm pointing this out so you know where it can be found because it's kind of hidden. It's on the Tools toolbar, and it's located under User Preferences. So if we go to Tools, User Preferences, and to Edit Signature. Okay. Your barcode imager, sign a piece of paper, take a picture of it with the barcode. Okay. Ink signature. All right. If you do ink signature, you're actually signing with your mouse. and tablet is for a tablet signature. So you can go ahead and change your signatures here. Again, if you don't do your start shift, this will not go with you. This is part of your user start shift file. Okay, and the Forms Manager reset buttons. Resetting the last saved and resetting to TraCS default. Okay, these are going to become important because this interface is so customizable that you're going to have people doing things that you aren't going to know how they got it into the configuration they got it in. All right, you can reorder your forms grid. So if I want status way over here, I can take it way over there. I can actually pull it off the list. I can, accidentally hide my search panel. I can end up with the quick add, docket right. Get everything turned around. I can actually make this whole toolbar go away. All right, so I can. Now I'm in there. I don't know where anything went to. Okay, I'm lost and I don't know how to fix it. So we've actually created 2 buttons which allow you to fix it very quickly. You can choose Reset Last Saved. Now, if I were to close this right now and reopen it, this would be my last saved, which doesn't help you if you've got it all screwed up and you think, oh, I'm just going to close it and reopen it, and it'll be all better, because that's what it's going to save is what's in front of me right now. If you were to do that, then you can go to Reset TraCS Defaults, click that button. It's on the Tools menu. It brings you back to what we said is the quote-unquote factory default. All right, so they can mess with it all they want. Doesn't matter. You can always get it back with just one click. Okay. I put this slide in. You all have this presentation on your flash drives. Some tips and tricks for navigation when you're in the form. All right, moving forward, Enter, Tab, and Alt and N will move you forward in a form. Previous, Control and Enter, Shift and Tab, Alt and P will move you backwards in a form rather than having to click. If you want to enter today's date in a form, all you have to hit is the D on your keyboard, and it will enter today's date. T will enter today's time, so you don't have to click on anything. All right, makes it very quick. Whenever you see the other button, if you actually hit Alt and O on your keyboard, it'll put you right into typing in that other box. And if you want to see the list again, go back from other to list. The Alt L will get you back to the list. And if you're moving between multiple forms, Control and Tab will move you from form to form. So you don't have to actually click on the different forms. So these are just some cute shortcuts that'll get you around a lot faster if you're working in the car. Lastly, TraCS 10 help. We've just designed for TraCS 10 an actual help system. And I think we put that on the flash drive too, Mike? All right. So the help system is a full help system. It has got every tip, trick that you can imagine in it. We will continually add to it, so it's a work in progress. The help system is located on the help menu and then by clicking the big blue question mark. This opens this application, which gives you all the information. You have information on what is a contact, ribbon controls, forms. If you double click on some of these books, you'll see that there's more underneath. So I didn't cover filtering. How do you filter and sort? This gives you all the information on how to filter and sort. You can scroll down. The nice thing is this is with the application at all times. Doesn't matter if it's a workstation or a field unit. So if you're in the car, you have access to this help system. All right. How do I auto-populate? How do I replicate? What's external information? The MV104 print. There is a small glossary here. So if I look for contact manager, if you look down in the left-hand corner, there's a definition. You also have the ability to search. So if I type external, it'll give me a list of topics, and I can click on any of these items, and it will take me to that topic. All right, and you can search anything in here. If it finds the word, it'll pop it up. I can search the word the, and it would look for the. Okay, but it's more than you probably will ever know or ever learn. But the cool thing is there's so much information in here. Once you get the basics down, kind of browse through and find out how to do some customizing. How do I do this? What are some tips and tricks that I could learn about the whole application? Everything you could want to know is in here. And you are all getting to take it with you. It is a CHM file, just so you know. It's a compiled HTML file. So if you try to open it from the flash drive, it may not load. You may actually have to save it to your desktop to get it to run. Any questions? Yes?
Any current future plans for a tutorial?
Yes.
That's his job.
Yeah, we have a presentation tomorrow on training and implementation, more of a presentation and discussion, so we'll get to what's the best way. We have some thoughts, but we haven't finalized it yet. So that's still to be determined exactly how we're going to do it. Yes?
Is there going to be an end of life on 7.3 product?
End of life. Well, I guess so, because once we switch to 10 and start rolling that out, any new DMV law changes, we won't be putting out in 7. So yeah, we'll probably kick you off to 7 at some point and move you to 10. Because, you know, you're looking at what, 3 support people for all 427 agencies. So, you know, we're not going to roll back and forth between the 2. Question, problem.
Mike, we'll be able to set this up in a test environment in our locations before deploying it, to give you guys a chance to start using it or using it live.
Excellent question. Martin from Riverhead asked me about that earlier in terms of rollout. You know, can we just give it to lead agencies first to get familiar with it so that they know what to see in advance? I mean, but it's just like TraCS. You can basically install it on a standalone machine, have that set up and not connected to anything as a test machine. So, you know, when you first want to set it up and install it, absolutely, you can have a training lab set up on a standalone machine. So you can always do that. You can do that with 7. You'll be able to do it with 10. How you want to work that on your phase-in implementation, you know, maybe you put a laptop in the corner and say, testing only, you know. So, because you may have some people who are live using it in the cars and other people who you haven't trained yet. So
My own experience, hands-on is easier to learn than something slides. It's just what I made to store, bring it on board, much more actually generating practice tickets and practice.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, you'll have that ability.
Any big hardware changes for 317?
Coming up.
We got that coming up, so we'll go through the details. We've got a couple of slides on that. Good question, though.
Tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, I think that's on tomorrow's agenda.
Yes.
You switch to 10, is it just like the same procedure, server, workstations, or everything has to go to 10? You can't have a straight kernel there on 7.
You will be able to do that, and again, tomorrow's rollout plan will cover that in detail. But it's essentially the same type of procedure like this patch. Again, start at the server, you know, get the server done, move to your workstations, and then at your leisure, move to the car. It's basically the same thing.
Just to follow on this, moving ahead, it'll certainly take some of us a long time to get to 10. You're going to test with Windows 8 then, probably pretty soon.
We don't have Windows 8 in the test lab yet. I don't even think it's mentioned on the national list of supported operating systems yet. So, yeah, eventually. I'm sure that'll happen. Yeah, and when we get the 128-bit processors, we'll let that do it. Yes.
Just, have you guys considered, or is TraCS considered nationally in regards to the information from a smartphone, like photographs or the ability to be a scanner with certain apps, pushing that information from a smartphone to TraCS time?
Let's get right to it. What about iPads?
That has been, iPads has been mentioned. I believe they're going to work on Android first. So.
Basically, the answer right now is no. I mean, we're focusing on TraCS itself, trying to integrate with so many different operating systems, you know, between, you know, Apple and Android and, you know, the different apps. We don't have a development team to really keep up with that.
Well, I'm just saying that most of the new laptops now that are coming out, that even the toughest have a camera on them, and you can use the same app that you use for a smartphone to scan three-dimensional labels to bring information up. I I mean, is that something that, I mean, just, I'm looking at the administrative end of saving, you know, $300-400 purchasing a new scanner for, you know, patrol cars.
So specifically saying using the built-in scanner to the computer?
Yeah, the built-in, just the camera, the front-facing camera that's, if you just hold the driver's license up to it, like you hold it up to a smartphone, it can read that information off the back of a driver's license and import that information.
Okay, I'll take the smartphone out of it. Does your computer do that?
Yeah, my computer, yeah.
The computer's got a camera.
Yeah, the computer's got a camera in it. Well,
And it reads barcodes?
yes.
Well, the software layer between the camera and the barcode, right? I mean,
Yes.
yeah, the camera doesn't do it out of the box.
No,
Yeah.
there's an app.
So I see where you're going with this. So the answer is potentially. And here's why I
Not
say
anytime
potentially.
soon.
Call Eltron.
Well, basically what that,
You're taking Eltron out of business. is what you're gonna do.
well, basically what you can do now in track 7 is if you have, going from memory, there's an agency that actually brings in data through their license checking software, through their radio. They take that data, so they take client ID and all the person information. They programmed it to make it available for tracks to read, right? So if you program it to read it from the scanner and make it available for tracks to read, then tracks can do it. But that's you doing it because that's your interface. Because you're saying, this is my camera, this is my operating system, this is what I'm doing. So yes, it's possible, but it's not something that we could do for every agency with every camera, with every possibility.
My last question is, how about importing JPEGs from a PDA camera, from a smartphone? Will you walk out or take a couple pictures of the vehicle and be able to import those into your computer and then importing them into tracks through that?
Can do that.
So you can do that now.
Any camera will do that with.
Yeah.
Sure, I do it.
Yeah.
So you can basically you have that functionality. Every attachment, place where there's an attachment to
Yes.
the form, you can instead of reading the barcodes using the scanner as an imager, you can say import from file.
Okay.
So you have that capability. Now, having said that, whether you're doing it on a crash report or whatever else, remember that you can do that using your 16 megapixel camera and have a 16 megabyte file that you're now attaching to a tracks diagram that's being sent to DMV that is now going to crash somebody's server, right? So, you can do it. Now, when you actually use your the barcode imager, it only uses something like an 80K size image, 80 kilobyte, something very small. So if it's a form that's being transmitted to DMV, we're probably going to have a problem with it based on size. But other forms, not a problem.
Yeah, I just didn't want to, I'm glad you pointed that out, because I wouldn't want to put our IT people on that, and then.
I used to bring the whole server system down to the State Police Division last week, so don't do it.
Okay.
Well, your own database is going to get
Huge, fast.
Start importing files. Plus, it's not optimized for the blob type photo.
Correct.
In the field.
So again, if you're using, like web size and you're saving it as a small, medium, or large, file size, you could do that, but, definitely not full megapixel.
Good? I'm going to fly through this first. What's after? I'm going to take just a couple of minutes, but I know the break, there's no new stuff out there, but there is still some coffee and a few sodas left and that kind of stuff. But I'll take a couple of minutes. I was actually supposed to go in front of Carol, and maybe that would have answered some of the questions. Because I was not here when I was my turn last. So when are you getting tracks done? What's the schedule kind of stuff? And these are basically slides right out of our project manager's monthly report. John Snyder has been a great asset to us in getting this thing continuing moving forward, even if it's not at the pace we had expected. So basically the current status, training material development and some stuff. This is what I'm going to go over real quick. So our current status, the TraCS 10 base code, like I say, version 10 is what everybody knows it as. We're actually on 10.4 and then our release 14. We started somewhere down around probably 10.3 when we started looking at this. So where we're at, the forms and related stuff, the forms are done. Validation rules, status enhancements, everything's done. Auto-populate, replicate, done. External DLLs, done. Help system, done. So we are really getting there. We're going through some final regression testing. We just got that .14. We have one programmer who we did not bring out here with us just so that somebody could stay back and start hitting it and everything on what needs to be looked at again to make sure that nothing that we knew was working before is not working now. So we are in regression testing on 14. 14 is the one we wholly plan on moving forward with unless we find something that's a dead stop. Database migration testing is underway. We do have test labs for Access, Oracle, SQL, so we're testing all of that currently. Training material, this is probably our big step right now. Kind of what we have been doing. We did a couple of test sessions, brought in some state police, non-state police, tried a couple of different things, put them in front of a laptop. We gave one group just a 20-minute presentation on this is some of the new stuff and let them go. And even with just that 20-minute presentation, they did very well navigating through TraCS 10. We gave another group just some documentation and said, here, go through this. They didn't do so well. They had a lot more questions than the other group. So we're continuing based on what we found out from them, a lot of stuff that we took in from them on refining the training material and what exactly it's going to take, like I mentioned before, for a current TraCS user and for a new TraCS user. That being said, we just started a state police academy for the first time in almost 4 years. They are getting TraCS 10 only. So we have that as a complete test lab also to refine our TraCS 10 training. It actually starts Monday. So even without TraCS 10 being out there, on what you see over here, they are being trained on. So we should have a pretty good feel on what needs to be done for training. If you can read, hopefully you can't read those dates. Basically, when we started this over a year ago, a year and a half later, you see a bunch of 100% up there, 90%. We're in that testing phase. They say we're just trying to get through that. And then it's the training development that we're currently working on, our pilot. We are planning on going to a local agency to pilot first. It's kind of, I don't want to scare him because he's sitting here in the audience, but we picked him because if we usually pilot everything first, we've come to find out with TraCS 10, when we pull the switch on TraCS 10, it's got to work because there's no going back. Especially when we do it, we're going shotgun style. When we put TraCS 10 out there, we're not picking a station and going to TraCS 10. We're giving TraCS 10 to every station we have at once. So there's no going back. So we want to make sure it's nice and stable before we give it out. So our pilot, once we get out of this week, been a lot of planning for this. We really plan on putting everything into that final testing, getting into pilot, and then moving from there. So, and then it's going to be just the implementation phase, getting it out there for everybody, and hopefully, say throughout the summer, we plan on being extremely busy. So our concerns, nothing on procurement, nothing on supporting tools. We do have a bunch of other stuff at the same time. Spider, like I said earlier, is pretty much wrapped up. That's going out with TraCS 10. Tell you now, if you want TraCS 10, you have to have Spider. It's the way it goes. We'll be out there helping you doing both at the same time. We have a bunch of other troop car stuff going on. Doesn't really affect you only in our staff. Our academy class is actually, I think, going to help us with the training kind of stuff. So, and then monitor and coordinate with everybody else and what's going on out there. So it's kind of an internal thing. So we're continuing our project plan, refining it as we go on. We're doing that test training material. We're regression testing, migration testing on the databases. Everything's in progress, and we are getting our rollout plans going. questions? No, because it's break time, right? 15 minutes?
All right, we're good? Am I unmuted? I'm going to take some time to go through the new forms. After that, we have some time dedicated to show you the new diagram tool. That will not take nearly as long as an hour and a half, so we'll probably be finished early, and we'll have some time to use the laptops up there afterwards. Just going to take a second or two at a turn to go through some points that I written down before. Reinforce why some of the things were done the way they were in TraCS 10. When you first go into log into TraCS, and the manager usually comes up and shows you that nice message, you've got over 1,000 forms, change your search criteria, generates that. The good thing about TraCS 10 is you won't have that anymore because your search isn't done initially when you enter it. You actually have to push the search button. So that's a big change. Potentially, if you have your criteria all set blank, you would still hit that message when you hit your search criteria. However, with the favorites feature, you can actually change your favorites to a specific date range so that when you do execute the search, it won't go back 7 or 8 years. You could just hit your past 3 years, and you'll narrow down your numbers. So it's a real nice feature. One of the things that we touched on last year, but we didn't bring up this year and we didn't prepare a presentation, was the TraCS numbering sequence. So if you did attend last year's meeting, that is converting to a machine number and not randomly generated, a date and timestamp to generate the ticket numbers. So TraCS 10 totally avoids the duplicate numbering in tickets and accident reports. And again, one of the big things that we've shown before is the external information. Everybody remembers that probably at one point in time they've had that issue where they issued a ticket and then issued a second ticket, and they exchanged information from one on the first ticket after they've issued it. And the motorist has a copy that's correct and the court has a copy that's wrong. So that whole external information now of delinking the information, so the person applied to one form is that person. If you go ahead and change that later on, it doesn't change that person information. So that's all solved. Really good feature that I'm looking forward to getting online soon so we can stop getting those calls. Getting into the new forms, we do have 2 new forms in TraCS. At the request from past years, we have the standalone driver exchange form, which essentially duplicates the part of the crash report, the driver X section of that. So it's just filling out a driver exchange form to exchange information between 2 drivers. The difference between that and the accident exchange piece is that this form, once it's completed, will go to a submitted status. So you won't be looking back at accident reports saying, why is this accident report open? Why is it open? And the person continuously says, well, because I didn't want to do a report. I just wanted to do the driver exchange information. And I didn't want to delete it either, so it stays out there. So this is the replacement for that. And we added the standard DMV form, which is called the DS5, Police Request for Driver Review. Here's a picture of the DS5, if you can see it again. This is just a PDF of the actual DMV form. No, currently it will not be electronically submitted like like all the other forms, with the exception of the ticket and the accident. This will not be going to DMV currently. They don't have a mechanism to receive that as of yet. So it will be a paper-based report after you complete it. So print it and process it to the address listed on there for the Driver Improvement Bureau. We just finished this form. It uses common information, so you can select from the scans, but we did not create an auto-pop rule for this. We could look into it, but looking at the form on first blush, it really looks like it's just officer information that's predefined and then the person information that's predefined. So the rest is all fill-in. So I don't know if there's a lot to auto-populate other than contact, time, and date. But we can look at it.
Are you going to be able to type it in that form, or is it
This is actually just the printout. So when you get to the actual form, yeah, it looks just like any other traffic form. I pulled this from one of the P memos from DMV, the P43 memo back in 2003. And you can pretty much read it. Intended to help both the enforcement community and DMV staff. By standardizing the process, you can use to request the DMV review a particular motorist driving abilities. I'm not going to get into out of my area, but this is DMV information. And if Bill Leonardo wants to mention anything about it tomorrow, he certainly can. The input form just looks like a regular TraCS form. So again, you're scanning the information. Your person information is being pre-populated based on your user profile. The licensee information, again, scanned from the document, and then you just fill in the 3 sections. The standalone driver exchange, this is what it's going to look at. It's labeled the Civilian Accident Information Exchange Form. And this PDF, again, is supplied on your thumb drive, so you'll be able to see that. Question?
Are you going to take off the please wait 14 days before contacting me to request your copy? That's the biggest problem with now that they constantly now use that in ours, even though we may not do a whole track report, but then they'll think that there's a police report and they'll just bird dog it. So.
And if this is just a driver exchange without an accident, why would they get on that anyways?
I'm going to speak at a turn initially, and then I'm going to invite Jim Daly to come in. Matt, could you grab Jim? Because, again, I'm not law enforcement. Talking about the driver exchange form, the request or discussion point was to please wait 14 days before contacting DMV for a copy of the form.
Yes.
And the discussion that you and I had on the side was it will stay because civilians are still required to file their own report, and that would go to DMV.
Yeah, but it says to request a copy of your accident report. We're not doing one. I can see saying, putting some verbiage saying, hey, you have to report it or whatever.
They won't need a copy of their own report because they submit it. You have to
Right.
register.
On the standalone report, yes.
Yeah, the standalone. It
Yes,
makes it seem like we're doing a report.
So that should come off.
Yes, that is correct. That should come off.
Thank you. I stand corrected. Good catch. So this is actually the printed format of that. And again, when you're going to use this form, based on the feedback that we've received, when an officer does not intend to fill out a full MV-104A, i.e. a non-reportable crash, eliminates the holding of open crash reports in TraCS because you're not doing it, so now it's a new form. We've changed this form, unlike the driver exchange, to add those miscellaneous notes that are at the bottom of that form, even though you could never even put data there. So we've opened up those fields to correct that. And currently, the witness information is currently on the form, but not printed on the driver exchange report. I don't know if we reviewed those details on where that should go. Being that if you do take witness information on this report, do you really want to hand it to the other motorists involved? Just when we just made the decision in getting this into a pilot phase to say we're not going to put it on there because that was the safe bet from the IT department without consulting anybody. And again, we just finished this form, so that's a question that we probably open up or run by council. What do you think?
No.
On the standalone form, correct.
How else would they?
I don't see what it named out. It's not an accident.
Yeah, that's their problem. Like their own witnesses. That's what the insurance company tells them. Write down the witness's name.
Can I ask a poll question kind of everyone?
Sure, Andrew.
I'm Andrew Shadner, I'm from DOT, and we're seeing some changes in the numbers of non-reportable crashes, and is this kind of like an unwritten policy now at the departments that non-reportable, so you just do the information exchange? Because we kind of figured that was happening more often. We're seeing the non-reportable accidents kind of going down in number. So I didn't know if that was just something that's happening more frequently.
It's a written policy, or it's less than $1,000. We won't do a report.
We won't do a report. Okay.
That's awesome.
I can say,
Hence the non-reportable, right?
dealing with many agencies, and the request that we get in and why we did this form was because of requests that more and more agencies, unless it's required, don't want to do the full report. So on a statistical basis, it's something that we could look at, because I know on the traffic record side, this data is very important. And maybe taking that, even though a full report's not done, taking these reports and maybe at some point getting them to DOT and DMV so that we can still have the traffic records side of it, even though a full report wasn't done.
I think the work at DMV with maybe automating that motorist
will help.
Shift that back.
Because then you start losing a lot of your property damage crashes. You may have an intersection that is terrible, but you never know it because they're not getting it. You know it, but nobody else knows it. You know it because you're there every day. The DOT engineers don't know it unless they're replacing the stop sign every couple days. So that'd be a no on the witness.
Okay, so no on the witness information. I like that. And again, the report as you fill it out, basically divided into the summary information, case number, date of accident, all the same fields from the driver X part of the complete MB-104, part of the ACC form. Just scrolling down, you can see, because there's Unit 1 and Unit 2, a fair amount of data here. We opened up the notes section, which you see over here, which wasn't previously printing on the bottom. And then witness information, again, taken for your usage, but not printed anywhere in case you do gather that information. Those are the two new forms. Tomorrow we have our open session, where we actually have some time allotted to discuss other requests for forms. I know the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Vince Gerasi over in the corner has been bringing some ideas, so we'll let him talk about some of the things that he's interested in. And we've already got some thoughts on that, but we'll bring that up tomorrow. Next on the agenda list would be the new diagram tool, because we didn't show that as part of the main TraCS 10 piece. So we're going to have Debs give her presentation debut this year.
Let's record how long I take. All right. Okay, the new diagram tool. Some of the new features for the TraCS diagram tool. Can everyone hear me? Yep. Okay. It has a different look and feel. It has improved toolbar options. Objects can now be drag and drop instead of clicking. The text can be rotated. Rotation has improved for all objects, and there are actually some new palette options. TraCS comes with a preset palette options to choose from: directional, roadway, vehicles, objects, signs, and TraCS 7.3 symbols. TraCS 7.3 to TraCS 10, agencies will still be able to amend TraCS 7 accident report diagrams. The TraCS 7.3 palette can still be added to the TraCS diagram tool, and Easy Street users will have no change to the diagram tool. I'm going to show you a demo.
Slow down.
Sorry. They want to see how it works anyway. Okay, I'm going to open up a crash report. and go down to the diagram. We're going to use the TraCS diagram. Open. A second box will open up. You have to hit the launch to open up the diagram tool. This is the new tool. If you notice on the left-hand side, these are the different symbol palettes that are available. We have the directional, which has the different direction signs, roadway, all the different roadways, vehicles, objects such as an animal or a tree, and then all the different signs. If you want to amend a TraCS 7.3 document, we can also add the symbols from TraCS 0.73. And now these are all the symbols that you're used to seeing from the older version. Add it to the new one. Okay, I'm going to create a accident. I'm going to take this 4-way, 1 lane. Like I said, you can drag and drop now. So I'll select, drag, and drop it right on. You can use the boxes, these small boxes around the road, the symbol, to either make this larger or smaller. Okay, just leave it there. I'm going to place some vehicles. Let's see. Place a vehicle right here. Now you can rotate this vehicle. If you move the cursor over the green dot, you'll get the rotation circle. Just rotate that. Okay, let's.
What, the old way is not easy?
Okay. If you wanted to extend the roadway, they have a line extender. So you get the line extender, and you just create a line. Okay, I'm not the best here with the straight line, but you get the picture here. So you get that line there. Okay, close enough. Let's add some some signs. We'll put a stop sign here. And we'll put a bush right over this stop sign. So I'll show you like the overlapping. If you want to show the stop sign over the bush, you can bring to front or send to the back. Okay. Now let's say that we have about 5 or 6 different objects here, and we want to group this into one object. We can go to select all, and there is a group feature here, and we'll group that. Now that we've grouped all of these objects together, and let's say we want to rotate this, once again go over the green dot, and we can rotate the whole entire object. Okay.
Big question.
Yes.
You have the deer pointed to the right. What happens if the deer was running to the left? Is the wrong way? He's upside down. You want to make him
I believe you.
We can't reverse. Well, reverse.
Yeah, you can now. Let's see. So there are more rotation options up here on the top. Okay, there you go. Put the deer up there. Okay, now if we want to add text, click on the A, bring it out. Text box. Oops. Let's say type in Main Street. Once again, you select and you can move the text. Okay. Let's say we want to put a directional here. You can do that. You can copy and paste. If you select the objects and go to Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste, you can paste it over. You can do an undo. Oh, we're not doing that. If you want to clear the background and just have a white background, you can do that. There's a clear the grid. And then once you're done, you just close right out. And here is your diagram. Close again. And there it is. Go ahead. Yep, you can. Let's open that back up. Just select the text. One.
Also, just put it right in the car. Okay.
Yep, you can put it right on the car or next to it, wherever you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Can you still save a blank intersection and then go in there and go over the top of it?
Yep, you can still save.
Okay.
Any other questions?
More than one curve in there. The curve diagram has one very, very sharp curve. That's all you have on it.
From the roadways? Yep, these are all the different roadways here. You can scroll down. The curve. Where's the curve? Where is the curve? This? I have not tried. Like that?
What's the curve on the bottom?
Let's see.
Now click and drag that middle, right in the middle.
Oh, right in the middle. No. Wait. There you go. No? It didn't change the shape, but...
Nope, that's just size.
No.
There's got to be a way.
There has to be a way. I'll have to look at that. Curve. I don't.
Less sharp. Yeah, T-part, you use the center. Drag it out.
We just tried that.
Drag different corners or the center square, the center.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Now
like
drag
that,
the center.
drag it that way.
Move it. Keep moving it.
You gotta put it a little bit to.
Yeah, I figured. Well, thanks. I'll have to look into that one.
It's just like when you put the car out there, if the car's not coupled with everything, you can actually type right on the car.
No, it's not doing it. Well, any other questions? Well, the laptops are there, so you can actually go over and kind of play around with the tool.
All right, so we finished our presentation side a little bit earlier, apparently. We do have the laptops up over here. We're going to be here for a little while. Like I said, we are about 45 minutes ahead. But for those of you who have not checked in yet, you can go ahead and get checked in. We do have the manager's reception tonight at the hotel. I believe we're going to be up in the gazebo area. We will have some finger foods available, and of course the regular stuff that the hotel does also. So, like I say, we have some stuff for hands-on. Feel free. Any questions for anything that we've done today? Yes. Yep. We're going to cover it all tomorrow. Yep. So, all right. We'll be here for questions and see you at the reception.